So I took stunt classes and immediately was like, ow, that hurts. I did like a high fall, like maybe 6 feet up. And I was like, and no, I'm just not that person. And then we did the fight scenes and that kind of stuff. I did the precision driving, and I've always been a confident driver. And I had started driving with my mom when I was like 5. I was steering, and 5 and 6 shifting, and then 11, she would let me drive around the block. I was obsessed with driving. And I think it's just in you or it's not.
Welcome to High Octane Hustle. I'm Fastlane Jane.
And I'm Design Muse.
And we are here with none other than that Porsche Girl Lara Newton. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. We're so glad you're here. I mean, Laura.
Very excited to have you.
Laura is a precision driver. She drives for film and television. And
Mille Miglia. I still said it wrong, didn't I? Mille Miglia.
Yeah, I did the Mille Miglia last year.
Mille Miglia.
You have to say it with your hands up here.
So please, show me.
Mille Miglia.
Mille Miglia.
I'm probably, everyone in Italy is like, no, it's Mille Miglia. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably an inflection somewhere else.
That was the one right there.
Yeah.
But what an insane race, right?
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane.
1,000-mile endurance?
It was like about 1,200 actually last year. And this year, I think they added a day. I didn't do it this year. I did the Italian one, and then I did the American one as well last year. And one and done, I'm good. So, and it was such a bucket list for me. I was so excited. Vredestein took me, my tire sponsor, and it was like such a dream for me. And then to get there, I was like, oh, this is really hard work. It's not like a glamorous thing because it's quite expensive. It's very, everything's really high end and expensive, but you're moving at such a pace that food is like thrown at you and you just run out the back door and you're, back in the car and you're in a timed situation getting out.
Yeah.
So it was, the boys don't like the girls there. That's another thing. And it's funny because, it was quite obvious, and other women that were there were like, oh yeah, they don't want us here. It's pretty obvious.
And how many women were there that competed, and as opposed to the men?
Well, usually they're on the right-hand side of their husband, or whatever, but there was about, I'm not sure exactly the number, but about 14 that I could count that were primary drivers like myself. And then I had a co-driver, Bernard Moix, who, it was his car. I actually got the car off of my Instagram. So by just putting it out to the people. And so he was wonderful and like came up in the last minute because we had 2 weeks to get a car. Because we were like, oh, it's in June, but we need it now in February? Okay. So we got the car, and he was like the perfect partner. His wife and my boyfriend were in the car behind us just as our chase vehicle. And it was the perfect partnership for sure.
What kind of car did you drive?
A 356 Pre-A 1955. And he had just finished making it perfect,
Wow.
And he has a couple of cars, and he chose to bring that one because he had built it, just up and made it perfect. And so I'm like, you really want to take your perfect car? And, no seatbelts, just going balls to the wall, just as fast as we could. And then you go, a lot of it's funny because I thought all the Italians would know exactly what it is because it's such a Super Bowl for them, Yeah. And a lot of people would be like, oh, I thought it was like a parade because you kind of parade through the towns. But then it's like as fast as you can take the car. We broke the car a couple of times, and you have your chase vehicle that helps fix things and stuff. And it was a crash box by the end. I was like double clutching, just trying to get it shifting. And but we didn't break anything too bad, and we didn't get in accidents like all the other guys did. A lot of $15 million accidents out there. It was
wow. That's insane.
That is crazy.
And we knew who to stay away from too. That's what's the most incredible part. You're like, yeah, that guy's getting in a crash. And you come around the corner, you're like, oh, well, he did it.
Out of my way.
You can just tell they're just pushing it too hard for a car that can't handle it. And a lot of people rent cars now. So, it's not like it used to be where it was much more of a legacy race. It's a little more, I don't know. the element was a little off that year, but but there's some people that have just been doing it forever, and there's just all that passion behind all the cars. So it was really an incredible experience. It was a lot,
Was it coming back from COVID that was there a stall with this 100-year race, or excuse me, this 1,000-mile race? We're coming up on the
felt like 100
anniversary of 100 years. So
with COVID, there was no, it
didn't stop anybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was last year, so people were kind of back and ready, and I felt like it was a lot cheaper last year to travel. That's for sure. Because I was last minute, I was doing some travel, and I was like, oh, I can get a place for nothing. I just popped all over the place because I did 107 days last year in Europe. So
that's where my 100 came from.
Oh,
From our
100.
conversation.
Oh, yeah, the 100. Yeah. I did my 107, and it was maybe the best summer of my life.
And this is consecutive days, right?
Consecutive days. Oh, yeah, I had to Brexit out for 17 days, but I did 100.
Wow.
I think I actually might, no one can hear this, but I think I'm over by a day. Somehow it worked against me, but I think I'm okay to go back.
We're not quite a global show just yet, but we're getting there.
One guy from passport control going, write it down.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Use all those days. Totally.
Right? So tell us about how you became that Porsche girl.
I honestly don't know. It was so ridiculous because, as an adult, you should probably move on and not be on Instagram. But apparently, I started this Instagram a couple years ago because I was really doing a travel blog before, thinking, oh, I can do, have other people pay for me to travel. So, and I kept posting up cars, and I've said this on other podcasts, but I kept posting up cars because that is my love, and I'd go to car events and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, my boyfriend goes, you should just do one with like Porsche and girl, and guys are so stupid they'll follow you. That's the quote. So I've said it before, and then sure enough, guys are so stupid. No,
but we love guys, okay?
No, I'm just kidding.
So you know.
There's like 92% of my followers are guys, just because the word girl and like the two things that they like the most is just random girl and random Porsche. They're really happy with that. So, but then I put together some fun stuff, and I think that my creativity and also my true, I don't think you can fake it. Like this kind of passion, you can't just be like, you can't. I talk about cars all day long too.
Yeah.
My guys and my 8% of women. And so, that's just basically, it just started, and it kind of took off really quickly. And no one was more surprised than me, because Lara's personal Instagram is not as popular. No one cares. They're like, boring. But I did something that was a little creative. And then Porsche kind of took notice. And so they kind of put me a little bit more on the stage of the world, I guess.
Well, and you're representing, I think, too, attainability for other women that, oh, I can have a Porsche. And I didn't say that right, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Not in France, though.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry to my French followers. But yeah, that's my whole thing. As I've seen it, immediately I was following every girl that I could and saying, anyone who follows me, I'll follow you back, because I wanted to build that community for myself, because there isn't much of one. We have probably, I would say, as I've traveled the world, that we have the biggest market for Porsches. And also we have the biggest female market, I would say, of Porsche drivers in California. We all live in our vehicles, so might as well have a nice one, So, but that's the whole thing, is just having that inclusivity for girls, young girls, to see that a woman can do it. It does, and I'm not like the fastest girl. I don't think we have to be like the strongest. I don't need to be wrenching on the cars all the time. I have someone who does that. So, but I do want to know what's in there and why it's happening. And, I do care, and I do talk about all of those things to my followers. And, when an engine blows, and we got to talk about it, so that kind of stuff.
I know that feeling.
Right?
Yes.
It happens.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Means you're really driving the car.
Right. Yes.
We love when the car is out of commission forever.
No, that we don't love.
It's so great for everyone but you.
Exactly.
All those people making money off you.
Well, and I think that Theresa and I were talking about it earlier about the concept that you came up with, getting women off the hood.
And behind the wheel.
Yeah, getting them off the hoods. And this is no shade because I've modeled in my past, and so I'm not going to put any models down for doing a Gucci ad on the hood of a Lamborghini. I would jump on the Lamborghini hood too, probably. Like, how much? Oh yeah, I'm in. I'm all in. So, but we also, when you see these young girls just constantly wanting to, to get that attention. Yeah, you are going to get that attention, but I think it's the wrong attention. But that's how I feel about, who I choose as a mate too. I don't want the guy that wants to see me, with my ass hanging out of a dress. I want him to actually value our conversation as well, because eventually my ass will just hang out of a dress anyway. But I just think that we want them to value us in a different way. That's how I want to be seen. So I do, dumb it down a bit. And as far as I'm not walking around with high heels in a car that I'm shifting, I just put on my tennis shoes like normal. I can drive with heels, don't get me wrong. And and there's a lot of my friends that actually do stuff that with heels, and that is their thing, but it's not like it's not a sexual thing. Everyone can express themselves the way they want to, but I just feel like for me, this is how I feel I want to be seen and heard. And also I want girls to obviously embrace who they are and not shy away from being some pretty girl next to a car. That's not a bad thing per se, but it shouldn't always be that the only thing that we do is we pose on top of a car. And that's, I'm always like, well, let her drive. Like when I see a picture, the girl will get in and rub the steering wheel, and you're like, start her up. Yeah, let her do it. And they're like, she doesn't want to do that. So.
Yeah, but I think it has to be actually just a space that other women invite. I know that our influence within road course and off-road, that's really a big thing to us, the idea, the concept. Right?
Yeah. And definitely what, we spoke about too, Laura, is that you want to put that out there. This is something you're communicating to the rest of the world. So you want, young girls to see this. That you want them to be empowered by seeing you behind the driver's seat. You not behind the driver's seat, in the driver's seat, behind
just
the wheel.
behind, in the back seat. No. Where I belong.
That's way too far. But really putting that image out there. And I think that's important. I mean, that's what we all need to do and showcase that, and the more we do it, the more it'll be normal, in society. So
yeah, and that's what inspired me as a child. So I mean, everyone asks me, and it's always again the same. I mean, only because it just doesn't change. What it is, the reality of it was that I saw a woman.
Please share that story. That was great.
Yeah,
because your mom.
Yeah, my mom invited me over, and here's this woman with a car, and it's that moved me, and I was like, oh, I can do that. I can be a badass. The guys don't always get to do that. And I'm joking about the guys because I'm not also all girl power to the exclusion of men. I don't ever want to be that way because I don't think any guys are great. They've been super welcoming to me in this community. So I've been really happy about that.
And what kind of car was it?
Which car?
The one that you saw.
A Porsche. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's ingrained. It's ingrained.
Right.
But I loved it so much, and I was so proud of her because she didn't have a husband.
Yeah.
It was just her own thing that she picked this car, and she went and bought a brand new car. And I think I was telling you on our pre-interview that she wasn't this gorgeous Barbie doll.
Yeah,
she was.
Yeah.
Kind of just a serious looking woman, and I just still thought she was the coolest thing on the planet. It's not about looks, because if she was like a Barbie doll, it would have really, I would have been like, wow, I have to be her now.
Yeah.
But she was just the coolest thing because she just embodied coolness for me that day.
And tell me, what did you tell me that your first car was?
My first car, VW.
Oh, I thought, when did you have the 69 Corvette?
Oh no, I drove. No, my friend has a 65.
65.
And you have a 69
Oh my
Corvette.
gosh. No, I have a
drove
65
one,
and a
and they're
64.
they're a lot of car to drive.
Yeah.
She just wants to talk about
I
Corvettes.
just thought, for one reason or another, I'm like, I swear we were talking about that.
No,
but
I drove one. My friend,
was paying attention.
My friend said, "I don't want to drive it because it is." We were on a hill about like barely like this, and the second you put the clutch in, it wants to roll 100 miles an hour behind you. So people would pull up, and I go, "No, back it up," because the second it's such a heavy car, and so. But I had a blast. I loved that car.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I did have to throw in the Corvette.
Okay, I love that we have Porsche, Chevy, and Ford. Yeah, I
We're
like
all
this.
looking for sponsors.
Why, yes.
You can catch us on Instagram.
Well, there you go. That's the show, guys.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my phone's ringing.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Done.
Oh, shoot, it's Ford.
Oh, it's for you, Theresa.
So great.
Baja Forge. It isn't just the products and it's not just a brand. It's a way of life. At an early age, traveling to Baja was one of my fondest memories. It was about venturing to unknown destinations. It was the freedom of exploration and really slowing down to enjoy the amazing world and the people we have in it. Baja Forge is about helping you embrace adventure. Baja Forged, signature vehicle builds and off-road products built to forge your own path. Visit bajaforged.com today.
But you and I were also talking about you have obviously your collab with Porsche, and they've been a long time sponsor for you.
I mean, let's not give them too much credit.
Yes, we're giving them lots of credit.
No, we love Porsche. We love all things Porsche. I've done many projects with them. I'm actually working on one right now. So I'm excited about it, but I don't know that I can talk about it right now. But it's a fun little project that we're working on, and they've done stories on me and that kind of thing. So I was their first female editor for Originale, their Porsche Classic parts book. So that was kind of cool to be the first girl, but yeah. So,
That's awesome. And you have something else coming up with McGuire's, right? You're going to be
Oh no,
doing
I did
something?
McGuire's already.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a little campaign for them. Like they wanted me to just post some stuff for them, and I did that.
That's awesome.
I'd love to do more with McGuire's.
Us too.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yes.
McGuire's
Got to
would
keep
be
those cars looking good.
wonderful to receive a phone call from.
Oh, is your phone ringing?
I don't hear it.
No,
It's such a
darn
bummer.
it, darn it. But how did all of this? So obviously, you started with the woman, that nice, uptight woman. No, that's not nice. That woman, the businesswoman, and seeing her
Oh, yeah, yeah.
car.
And you said you were
then
about
where
8, I
did
think,
it go?
right?
Where
Yeah.
did?
Oh, I
give us
think I
some
was 12. It's funny because
information.
I thought I was
Okay.
9, and I'm like, no, I was 12 because I remember what I was wearing. And
love it.
We discussed how you
Yeah.
your first love.
Yeah.
You remember what you're wearing and where you
Yes.
were and where you were standing. Like I know what we did that day. I was wearing, of course, a matching red and white striped shorts set and braids in my hair, of course. And so I really, I remembered that day. It was so ingrained. But then, it's a pipe dream because for one, you can't get a car until you're older. And I always leaned toward German cars, but I think it's because my best friend's dad had BMWs and Volkswagens and that kind of stuff. So he always had like a brand new BMW. His daughter got like the Rabbit convertible and that kind of stuff. And so I always leaned toward German cars. No offense.
None taken.
Yeah. And then Porsche, I just, once you drive in one, it's over for me.
I love it.
It is. It's just, even when I bought my first one, I got in, I was like, I'm having a moment. I was like, you got me in a midlife crisis in the moment. I was like, just get me in the car. And then I drove it and I was like, oh crap, I'm buying this car. It was immediate for me.
Love at first bite.
Was
Love
that the
first
first time you had ever been in a Porsche then?
No, I had
Okay.
driven before. My ex-boyfriend had one, and that was the first one I drove by myself, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty great. And then he saw me. He was out at a cafe. He's like, just saw you drive by. I was like, yeah, I'm cruising.
I'll come back later. I found a better
I see you
love,
got the car.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, just cruising all around. Just making sure everyone sees me in it. Bright red Porsche.
That's awesome. You also have done precision driving for film and television. Expand on that. How did you get from, the first Porsche or the VW to the Porsche to precision driving?
Well, my first car was a VW Bug, 1964 6-volt. I don't suggest getting that for you unless it's your fourth car you're driving. And I overpaid for it, and it's probably worth the same amount now. And then I drove that, and it caught on fire eventually. Moved to New York. I moved to Colorado for a little bit, moved on to New York, did some modeling. And then when I came back, my book was very New York. It was very like half lit and very somber and dark. And everyone else's book out here was like,
Sunny and
the Gap,
right.
And they
The Gap,
literally
that
said
was
to me at the agency, they're like, we want you to look more like you're walking out of the Gap. And I'm like, oh, I don't smile in pictures, but okay, I'll try. And then, so I just started doing, I wanted to be I was like, I'll do extra work. I was just like, whatever I could get. I was 20 at the time. I was like, whatever I can get to just get me work, and then I'll get my Screen Actors Guild card, and then I'll be a big, gigantic actress. As you see, it's working out great. So I did extra work. I want to say, like, immediately I was just working almost every day because I was somewhat normal. And no offense to any of the extras listening, but there's a mishmash of people that, they bring their folding chairs and they like fall asleep on set and stuff like that. So if you're just even normal, they'll bring you back 1,000 times. So, and then I started doing model rate stuff. So it was more like I was like doing under fives and that kind of stuff. And then, well, I didn't even do under fives then until I got my SAG card, which was I took a stunt class with Greg Elam, who was Eddie Murphy's stunt double. And he said, we're always looking for women because a lot of the guys will dress with a wig, so it's better, you have more options to maybe be hired to do stuff like that. So I took stunt classes and immediately was like, ow, that hurts. I did like a high fall, like maybe 6 feet up. And I was like, no, I'm just not that person. And then we did the fight scenes and that kind of stuff and just learned how to move and that kind of stuff. But then I did the precision driving, and I've always been a confident driver. And I had started driving with my mom when I was like 5. I was steering, and 5 and 6 shifting, and then 11 she would let me drive around the block. I was obsessed with driving, and I think it's just in you or it's not. Because I can't tell you how many kids just don't even get their licenses until they're
right,
like 45. It's so crazy to me because it was freedom to me,
Yeah.
So I just loved all things cars. And then I got called on doing like, hey, can you do precision driving, through the extra agency actually. And then people start to know that you do precision driving, So sometimes it would be with my own car. Sometimes it would be a box truck. Sometimes it would be whatever, like it could
Very
be anything.
glamorous stuff.
And then eventually I was doing commercials with like babies in the back seat, and they just want a competent driver. It's basically not bumping into the camera and resetting really quickly, But sometimes it's avoiding an accident, but it's nothing like stunt driving where you're just, people walk. I've seen people. One guy broke his back in front of me jumping a truck. So it's it's that's not my thing, but so I'm very very cautious driver, but I'm a fast driver. But I'm always looking for what could possibly happen. So I think that's a good trait if you are a precision driver, not if you want to be a stunt driver, because you can't think about if the wheel's going to fly off. You have to just try to
go with it.
Make that wheel fall off. Yeah.
Got it.
I don't have that trait. I'm not that cool.
I think that seems to be a bit more in your wheelhouse, the idea of stunt driving and jumping trucks, and
I just go with it. Yeah.
you're just like, woo, air.
Yeah, I don't.
We have pictures.
There's nothing there.
We have
Go
pictures
faster.
of that.
Yeah. I have a friend like that. She's like, she surfs and she was paddling out. And they're like, no. And she heard go. Oh. And she just is like, I just got really hammered that time. They're like, yeah, we were saying no. And she's like, but she will go and go. And she's great at everything she does. She snowboards with all the dudes, and she's, a world-class soccer player. And I don't have that. And we're friends. So I'm always the one just keeping us safe. And she's trying to kill us.
I love it.
It's a good
It's a
match.
balance.
Yeah.
There. It's perfect.
That works.
Totally.
Like, It kind of sounds like our
You like on
relationship.
road, I like off road. It's all good.
It is. I'll do donuts. She'll do donuts. that kind of stuff. Yeah. Anytime, anywhere.
I
Oh my
like
gosh.
doing those things when there's no like autocross. I'm like, I hope a wheel falls off. Like I'm
Let's
like,
autocross the heck out of it.
oh, I'm using your car. Like that's where when people do it to their own car and they're kicking up rocks on a classic car. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I wish I possessed that kind of. I don't want to hurt the cars. But you put me in your car, I'll wreck it. I love that, But even like a Porsche Experience Center, we did autocross, and I was like, oh, I have to win. Like it was so crazy.
Love it.
But
there's not a competitive side
there's
to
no
you, is
walls
what you're
to
saying.
hit. Well, I have a major competitive side. I won that day, by the way. But
See?
yeah, it was a Women's Day thing, and it was funny because some of the girls are faster than me by a long shot. And
So did you sabotage their cars?
yeah, no.
I'm just kidding.
No, but I was like, oh, this has no walls. There's no whatever. It's autocross. I mean, that's like easy,
Yeah.
It was just cones. So I didn't even touch a cone. I was like, I couldn't believe it because that just shows how much you can push yourself. And I had a track day the day before, so I was going for it.
But that goes to show you it's about the precision driving. It's about knowing what you need to do in a situation, not necessarily just going fast.
Well, that's the thing with precision driving. I've done some stuff like I did something with Ferrari and the guy was hanging out at the back of a minivan. And I'm like, here's what, you tumble out, I'm going over you because I'm not going off the cliff, so put on a restraint, and because these guys, they have so much trust in us, and they just met me. I could be the worst driver on the planet, and I've worked with some precision drivers where I'm like, wait, where would you go to school? Like, where'd you do it? Because they're, if you're supposed to be pacing at a certain pace, they'll be off, and I will hold my pace. But then I'm like, for the camera, I'm like, I'll use back. Right. But now we're going 47, not 50. And that it drives me crazy because I'm like, just keep it at 50. But who knows? Maybe it's their tires or something like that too. But almost consistently on one of the shoots I just recently did, it was like, we're falling back. We're going 35, not 50. Like, come on,
Oh, that's way off.
I'm like by the book,
GTS Customs Corvette Specialists. Passion is the driving force behind every design, every build. Innovation taking the client's dream car places never thought possible. Not just seductive form, but flawless function, showcasing today's technology in yesterday's classic curves in luxury and in performance. Head over to highoctanehustle.com, shop the brands page, and check out GTS Customs Corvette Specialists.
But you didn't run the guy over?
No, and that's the thing. Like, you come around a corner and the camera guy's in the middle of the road. You're like, which way are you going? So
Kind of have to know those things.
yeah. They always try to push you into stunts, by the way. Like, you do a precision driving thing and they're like, it's going to be easy. It's just going to be a little bit of driving. They're like, okay, we want you to take it 120 around that corner. I'm like, okay, we're walking into something different here.
So what do you do in that instance?
Well,
Because you are the professional behind
I'll
the wheel.
do what I can do. And it's funny because when you get into like a brand new Ferrari, you're kind of like, I don't really want to hurt this car. Like, what if I did something stupid? It'll be way worse on me than any other guy, So I'm like, I got to be careful. But eventually you just go, yeah, I got to do it. I just got to do it. Like, just floor it as hard as you can. And I'm like, if I fishtail, I'm going to hit the camera guy. Like, because you're right by them and you're going right by them. But eventually you just do it. You just like,
I mean, just suck it up.
it's peer pressure.
And was it
you're like,
fun?
Yeah. I'm a fast driver. I'm a fast driver anyway. I'm not like a slow driver. I'm very precise in how I get around as well. Like, I know every lane you're supposed to be in from all my driving around LA. It's like, you should probably get to the right lane right now because it's going to be, the fast lane is sometimes not the fast lane.
No,
It's not.
It's not.
Oftentimes. Yeah. So
Especially on the 101 or the 405.
yeah. I'm always in that slow lane, exiting and entering on. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh. So what's coming up for you? Are you going to be racing? Are you doing another endurance thing?
Well, it's funny. I was supposed to do the Pro Rider GT cruising with my good friend Jerry Bleinberg. He does Wheeler Dealers France, and so I've done 2 or 3. I was supposed to be the 3rd one this year with them, and they canceled it because there was some stuff going on in France. And then now he's doing something up to Rennsport, and he announced me as the guest. So I guess I'm going. I'm like, call me Jerry. We need to discuss. But he announced
know when I'm
there was like
supposed to be
7
there.
pictures of me and meet that Porsche girl. I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess I'm going. But I'll do anything for him. He's awesome.
Well, that's good. At least it was under terms that you were okay with.
Yeah. No,
Is
he
that
knows.
always the
I
case?
always say that. I'm like, I'm family, so whatever, I don't care. And then he just went with it. And so I guess I'm going.
And that'll take that'll take place in France. I'm not really sure what's
he's
happening.
actually doing Rennsport
Okay.
here. Rennsport is up. Everyone's going to be like, you don't know where Rennsport is? My
Oh,
car
sorry,
is the
bad
face
question.
of Rennsport too. It's like they're using it as an advertisement for Rennsport Reunion. It's up north.
I couldn't
I
even
should
say
know
the word.
this. I know the answer, and I don't.
Well, you're going to be going there soon, so.
Yeah, eventually. I think it's like September, October, something like that. It's terrible. I should put it in my
make sure-
calendar.
yeah, you put it in your calendar.
Yeah.
You let us know. We'll put it in the comments section so that anybody who wants
Great,
to
so-
go to Rennsport
Yes.
and up
It's a big
north,
Porsche thing. It's one of their
California.
biggest events. So it's a big Porsche.
And what do you do
deal.
at these events?
Just
Show
walk
off your
around.
cars?
Well, it's funny because I don't even know what car I'll be taking because my cars are old. They're just little gentle, I call them brunch mobiles. Actually, the 930 is not.
Brunch-mobiles.
The 930 is like a muscle type car. Put it in your terms. And it's quite, no air conditioning, that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are big drivers and they love to do 1,000 miles in their old 356s. I am not one. I do love to drive around and go, locally, but it's just a lot driving a loud tin car for a long distance. I'm more like, put me in a comfortable brand new one and I'll be there.
So
But that's usually what they do. They put me in a car.
nice. So then what brought you down this road of like really being passionate about Porsches, like getting to know them, like getting to know each model, like you know a lot about all the different ones. Like how did that kind of evolve?
It's funny because you think you know everything when you're going into it, and then people who ask you questions, you're like, is he testing me? And you're like, oh, this is what even PTS. I never even used the word PTS. I'm like, it's the color. That's what they call it, paint to sample. And I'm like,
Now I know. I didn't
Right?
even know that.
Nor
on
did
paper.
I.
and then don't you feel like a jerk? I was like, oh, here come the boys trying to test me. And I'm like, oh no, it's just a normal term, But when you first start doing that stuff, you just like a certain color. You don't call it. I feel like it's gained popularity recently too, like because they just had a paint to sample event over at the Porsche Experience Center. But I love 911s generally. It's what I grew up with. Some people love 356s more. I do love a 356 convertible. 90210 Dylan McKay drove one.
Thank you.
Right,
Also
right.
helping
Bath-
us.
bath-
Yeah,
Bathtub.
stuff like that. The bathtub. And
Yeah.
it's funny. That's what they call it in French. They call it la bagnole, but they call cars bagnole. But it's a bathtub. And so, yeah, I loved all Porsches. Of course, I love the newer ones. I do love a convertible just because I live in California, which, the guys don't love either. But I don't have one right now. I had a convertible and I really miss it. I would go 4 feet. If I went like down the street, the top went down, that came back up. I'm like, I'm going to break this top because it's just constantly down and up. But yeah, so I just started really, I always knew about the cars. I knew, there's a 914 and a 911 and a 912 and a, 968 and a 928 and a 944 and a 924 and a 924S and all these different things. And then when you get here, then I was like, what's that car? It's like, oh, it's a 904. I didn't know what a 904 was or a 906. And these are all older cars. And then it's a 917, but there's a 918 and nothing's in order. 917's old, 918's new. So nothing, is in order. And eventually you talk about it so much because there is the passion too. I think you want to learn. When I wanted to learn French, I learned French because I wanted to. Not because it was a torture. So that I think I've learned more as I go, and I do once it's in there, it's there. I just lock it. Yeah. And I like I said, I really want to know what these cars are, and I want to. It's not to be anything. It's just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you even mentioned, I think in part of our conversation that like, I think all of us downplay sometimes of what we know, like what kind of knowledge we have. And we're not quite sure like, oh, is it any better than anyone else around? But, like classic Porsche that you were like, you kind of came into a room and then started talking about stuff and you were like, oh, I guess I do know a lot more than I realized.
Oh yeah. They Porsche AG called me and said, "Oh, we'd love you to be an expert and talk with our Porsche Classic people." I don't know if this is off the record, but here it is. The one person's gonna listen to it.
He's also going to pull that passport.
He's gonna, yeah. So, and I was like, okay, and I literally said it that way, like, alrighty then, or, if you think so. And I realized as we're talking, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty well versed in all things Porsche Classic, and now I'm, working into doing some consulting because that's really what I'd like to show also my brain side, because Instagram, it does take a lot of brains to do what we do to get enough followers and to be a part of something that people want to follow and that they value your content. And I enjoy the creative process of it, but I have a brain. And so you often are diminished as just a influencer. And I'm a driver first. I'm a woman. And I have many years on me, and I've been driving these cars for a very long time, and I have driving experience. But we're not called on the podcasts, other than a lot of females do, and some men have called me on some podcasts, which has been cool. I now realize I'm at that level of consulting. I know everyone in my little bubble of, which is the world, actually, because I know so many people around the world now. It's a really small car world.
Yeah.
So we kind of all know each other. I know all the, the female and the male journalists, and I know what they're thinking. I know what their issues are with different cars and with different, because we just talk, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the rest of the world, half of the year, in Europe for example, in Europe, they have their cars put away for half the year. And so we're driving all the time. We're always at events. We have to turn down events because there's so many events. And so for me, it's we have an advantage that they don't. And even like my Instagram, I tried to give them sunlight when they didn't have sunlight. And a lot of Europeans would say like, thank you for giving us the sunlight, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I was trying to do, is just to give that, because I know that they're like, we're parking our cars now. It's October 1st, you're like, oh my God.
You'd be sad, huh?
Yeah. And then we're bringing it out, May 30th, you're like, oh my God. Wow. So they only have like these summer months. And so, that you have, I just know what my followers kind of want, because I do have a pretty strong European following as well. So, but I think they're like, even with marketing and the way that women are portrayed, everyone wants to bring on women, but it's like, just call me. You're doing it wrong.
Okay?
You're doing it wrong. There's so much. There's a way to bring us in and not be girl power. I just hate that, because I love girl power, but don't at me. But we have to be integrated into a society that is male dominated, but not tiptoe in. We don't need to barge in and break everything, but there's a way of bringing us in. And just, Susie Wolf is doing a F1 driving course for the girls. And I love that. That's bringing us up young, it's already too late for us to be accepted. But, and that being said, for everyone who's probably listening that might be a man, I have a ton of support. It's opened more doors than it's closed for me. Yeah. So a lot of men feel frustrated that we do get those doors open. So I understand that frustration too, because I'm like, hey, hi. And they're like, oh my gosh, come on in, and we get things that they get respect that we don't sometimes get, but it's not like a competition, and we shouldn't be competing with one another. It's just little by little, we need to be seen. It's really about, and I tell this to all my sponsors, and all the sponsors I want to sponsor, it's not about the one post, it's about that relationship and in investing in that person, because this is consulting. Everyone who's listening needs to send me $100 for this, because
I love it. I love it.
Because it's true. Like investing in a person and investing in who they are and what you really believe in, not just letting one girl get in the car and poke at it. It's about, you know, showing that there's that longevity and that person is giving you that kind of support and that they believe in the product. And like I've turned down a ton of money for, we want to put like spinner things on your wheels. Like it's never going to happen, you know. $1 million. I'd be like, all right, one wheel. No, but you know, I think that, you know, we need to be integrated in. And now with Susie Wolf from F1 doing that F1 series for the girls, it shows these girls that what's possible. And cars aren't stronger than girls. This is something we can really compete together with, because it's like you're only as good as your car, but also as the driver. But, you know, and there are some strength things that you have to deal with. But as we've seen, women can rise to the top, like Danica Patrick and all that. So it you know, it is more of a level playing field. So it's shocking that there isn't more women in the sport, that it's just a mixed field. And I'm sure everyone's yelling at their radios.
You're dating yourself.
Big trollas. They're a big trolla. They're, you know, because I'm sure there's more to it and all that. But I mean, the boys have been coming up in all these training, you know, in kart, and there's a lot more girls now. But now to have a series, a F1 driver series for these young girls, now other young girls can aspire to that, not just ballet and tap.
Right.
I think to speak to the sponsors is that well, no, and I mean this like seriously and wholeheartedly, and I'm going to try and make sure that my tongue doesn't trip. If they're only focused on a portion of the population, meaning men, okay, which we all love men, we're all, you know, we're involved with men, right?
And they're right where they should be, behind the camera. Right. This is over. Keep them where they belong.
But I think that sponsors and business owners are understanding that they're cutting off their nose to spite their face if they're not putting a woman with brains and some talent behind the product.
Like aspirational women.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of, you know, hamburger eating, sexy, you know, dripping on their bathing suit kind of ladies. And there's, you know, and then
washing the car.
Yeah. Yeah. She's such a good car washer. Seriously. And she can eat a burger at the same time. But I think that where, you know, and everyone is very concerned with this, and they're just really wanting to push women and this and that. And it's just, sorry, such bullshit. Can we say that on
You
men?
can say whatever
Thank
you want.
But yeah, so, you know, it's we're getting there. There is more exposure. The intention is there, but when it runs up the ranks, it ends up being, you know, I don't know what they're going for. I feel like, call me. It's just, I feel like they're missing the mark. And
Well, it's old school. Sex
yeah.
sells.
Yeah, and
It's
but
always,
also,
it's been that way for a long time. And it's
also they just
something
take
that-
someone who's popular culture and they'll put it. It's like, do they have any history with the vehicle, or, you know, it's, and I'm speaking with vehicles just particularly because this is what we're talking about. But I mean, there's other things, other brands and things that also are kind of missing the mark, but there's a lot that are getting it. But also, I think sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on with more LGBTQ stuff, and they're really pushing it out, and it's everywhere now. And eventually we will all just be used to it. It's like when Ellen came out, and then everyone was like, oh my gosh, and she got fired, you know, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's very accepted, and it's celebrated, and it's fine. And we do get used to it. So sometimes it is just throwing it all on the table and just going, just deal, you know, and eventually you get used to it.
Yeah.
But I think there's also ways of just, you know, like bringing the young girls up. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we just change the perception from youth, because we still apologize for little things like, oh, I probably don't know as much as he does because he wrenches on cars
Yep.
and he does this and he does that. But we know different things. And there's a lot of women who do wrench on cars, and they're really like trailblazers in their world because it's not common, but that doesn't throw shame on me because I don't, or it's also not my jam. I don't like to be dirty under a car. But I do want to know what's going on.
And not all guys like to be dirty under a car.
A lot of guys
there you
don't.
go.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've run into more guys. I dated a guy years ago, and he had a Jaguar, and he's like, "Oh my God, Jaguar loves me. They're coming to tow my car because my battery died." And I go, "Your battery died? Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "Your battery died." I go, and he goes, "Well, yeah, it's only $400, and they're gonna." I go, $400? This is a long time ago. I was like, I could plunk it in for you, but I am not going to do that. And he goes, well, it's not in the regular spot. I go, it's probably under the back seat. And he was like, it's under the back seat. I was like, I was just so appalled that he didn't know how to fix his car on the most basic level, Sure. And because that, I mean,
So then it's a stereotype the other way too, right?
Yeah. How dare you not know? You're a man. So, yeah.
But one of the things that you had even touched on a little, and it goes back to a little bit earlier, is that there's enough space in here for all of us, and especially women. And like you said, you've been like, reaching out to different women like that we had talked about too as well. And it's knowing that this isn't just about one of us, it's about all of us doing this, and that there is space for that.
And girls, we do get in our own ways because like there's so much, girls don't support each other in the way that they should always. I've found my girls, there is a good, I'm sorry.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah, and it sucks because I think there's I was just talking to Lynn Woodward, and she said there's room for all of us.
Yes,
and I love that. I was like, yes, there is, and we don't need to compete with one another or copy each other or do it. We need to just be ourselves. Yeah, and we're just gonna emerge in the way that we're the best for ourselves.
Flood the market, put it in front of all of us.
Don't compete with people. Just be. And so that's the other thing is it's just hard. It's easier to say when we do think on a different level, and we are like, did she just do that? Guys just don't miss it. Like a guy will copy a guy, but he'll miss it entirely. It's like, no, he's just a cool guy. I don't know. Like they don't worry. They don't sweat the small stuff, in general. But, and we will be like, what was that? We notice things and girls start to talk and, we have our coffees on the phone and we just get going. Yeah. So I think that there is that, but I think, I loved her statements just saying there's room for all of us and there's plenty of room because there's so few of us. So stretch out, get comfortable,
Totally.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that's what it should be.
Yeah. I think it's just been awesome to sit and have a conversation with you. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart from coming from the OC. Is there anything else that we need to know? Did we miss anything?
You had asked me who I wanted to, and I worked hard on this, who I would have dinner with.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's that.
Okay. There you go.
Actually,
it's
it's funny because I was like, I had no idea. I'm like,
would it be a lobster dinner?
Yeah, with purple Skittles. So I really like Norman Lear. He's 100 years old now. He did All in the Family and all those different shows that were kind of groundbreaking at the time. And my boyfriend's like, they were racist. I'm like, no, they weren't. They were the opposite, And it was like he was exposing things, and I just love his brain. I think he's so amazing, and he's still alive, so I still have time. And then I love George Carlin. He passed away, but I just thought he was the funniest ever.
He was the smartest ever.
He's so smart, so funny, so like awful and wonderful at the same time.
Right?
I met him actually, and he was.
Oh my goodness!
I was like, oh my god! And I had him sign a book for my dad, and he goes, oh, like, oh, you know who I am or whatever, and I go, yeah, my dad's a huge fan, and he goes, huh? And I go, I am too. Like, I am because of him, And my dad was letting me see him, his shows way too early, but it was, the way my dad would laugh, it was like, oh, he must be onto something. And then I watched it as an adult, and you're like, oh my God, he's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend, 6th grade. She squirreled the album out of her parents' house and brought it up to brought it up to my house where those Nissen girls were latchkey children, and we sat and we listened to what is it? The 7 words you can't say.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't say all those, but you guys go look that up, right? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
I'm sorry. You're gonna have to do some work. Is this live?
No.
Is it? Oh no.
No. He'll just put those little
Like over my
like
mouth,
the
like a blur.
emoji. Yeah, that emoji guy.
It'll be like fun.
Because nobody has ever heard those words before.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I said the bad word. Sorry. And then the other one would be Princess Diana, just because she'd spill some tea. I would only go
Right?
for the wine and just chatting. You know, I want all the dirt on the.
But have you?
All the dirt.
Yeah. Speaking of that, have you listened to or read Spare by Harry, Prince Harry? I don't
know
even
a
know
lot
if
of
he's a
people-
prince anymore, is he?
I know a lot of people are against that. I personally think that they have been attacked and that people don't get it, the level. Do you feel that way? 100%. Okay. I think, 'cause I'm like, are we in the same camp? I think that they have been completely, I think people don't understand the pressure that they're under. It's not like, oh, he's such a spoiled brat because he's a whatever. It's like that kind of intensity that they get from that is and imagine he's lost his mom and all that, and people are just totally forgetting about all that. And everyone that says that they're terrible humans, they have no idea who they are anyway. Absolutely. So maybe they are terrible humans on their own, but this part, they've been attacked, and everyone in England, I'm always like, well, do you know them? You know, like,
right? Yeah.
Tell me, how were they when you went to
This is
lunch
from a
with them?
tabloid
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, and the
It's-
tabloids
yeah.
work, and people love sound bites. I
Yeah.
mean, you could just say whatever you want. I could just
And they're but
might be
say
some
this
today
is
from
red,
you.
and eventually people are like, it's red because she said it. You know, it's so crazy.
and people they thrive on train wrecks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They
But
create
they
them.
destroyed,
They create them
destroyed
too.
that girl too. She was
Yeah.
and she was actually doing. I actually watched all that stuff that she had done that was humanitarian and all that well before him. Like that's filmed. That wasn't just made recently, you know. So it's like she was doing her own stuff. It's like you get no credit for that. You just, you know, you married for the money and you did this, whatever. God forbid you fell in love with a guy because that means he's not lovable, you know. And it's just, it's just wrong on every level. And I just, until I meet her and she's terrible to me, I'll just withhold my judgment.
right. Oh
like
my
that.
gosh.
I like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you were here with us and
Oh my
you-
gosh, this has been great.
Yeah.
I know.
It was so much fun. How do we get a hold of you? How do we find you?
Please don't.
We're not going to stalk you. How do our followers
Hopefully
find
everyone
you?
knows one.
That Porsche girl.
At that Porsche girl, and pretty much that's where I always am because people get mad when I don't respond on Facebook, and I'm like, does anyone respond on Facebook anymore?
I thought it was MySpace.
I'm just Instagram too.
Yeah, just Instagram and then on this podcast.
Fantastic. High
High
octane.
octane hustle. High octane.
Yeah, I messed up
Yeah.
whatever. I did the same thing.
That
I
high
earned that. It's that high octane. Oh, it's that one. Oh my gosh. Closing words?
It's been fantastic. I really do love that we had Porsche Chevy in for though. I
Yes.
feel like that's a whole nother like
sponsorships that we
separate.
just picked up.
Did you all hear that?
I
we
love
want
that.
them next time.
Hashtag Ford, hashtag Porsche.
Oh my gosh.
That's happening.
And Theresa and I are excited because we're bringing to you a new closing statement.
I didn't have it. You did.
Like a
No,
real
no,
housewife?
no. I didn't have it.
Are you a real housewife? You have like your own tagline?
No, we want our own
We're
tagline.
working
We're
on it.
struggling though.
For high octane
What do you
hustle.
think? How should
Oh
should
gosh,
we?
now I have to work. That's okay.
Yeah, now you have to
See?
work. We're
See?
consulting with you.
Hustler. What was the what was the hustler? What was the? You said it. I don't remember. I just told you no.
Well,
Why get high when you can hustle?
Okay. This is
Why
good.
hustle when you can get high? You can just turn it around whenever.
right,
whatever your mood is.
right. No, I can't remember. Gosh, we'll have to check with Jason because it was something like, okay, now we're hustling.
And you're like, no.
Gotta get
I
hustling.
think it was
Everybody
I think it was the
hustling.
tone.
It was probably the time.
And I was like, no.
It creeps
And
you out
on
when I'm
that
getting
note-
close.
On that note, let's get hustling. Right to
There
camera.
you go. Okay, so now we just need people to chime in the comments and
We'd
tell
like
us
to hear what you think
yes,
our
what
tagline
you
should
guys
be.
want to hear.
We don't know if we have one yet. Maybe by the
All
next
he's
one.
trying
we'll
to do
see.
is turn the camera off right now. His
Yes.
finger is like
It's done.
hovering.
Hovering. And it's
Thank you. Thank you for joining us
Yes.
today on High Octane Hustle, the podcast. And you can find us on our website, highoctanehustle.com, and Instagram.
Oops. Sorry, Jason.
High Octane Hustle Official.
Yes. I'm
Please follow
Fastlane
us.
Jane.
And I'm Design Muse.
And this was
That Porsche Girl. Let's get hustling.
I love it. Thanks, guys. The Porsche Girl. Or is it that Portha Girl? Let me do this one over. Fuck.
Retake.
See, I told you I was going to need a
There's
retake.
like 27 of us. It's like Porsche Girl, that Porsche Girl,
Okay,
that
and
Porsche
it's
Girl,
written
Porsche
down on this piece of paper.
Porsche
I didn't
woman,
look.
that Porsche woman. Like, okay, forget it.
That can make the
Cut
grouper.
that.
What in the
All
heck?
those names.
My L's and
start
my
with
R's.
Ours.
I'm
You
like,
keep
this is
adding ours.
subscription on Patreon. You can have all this.